When it's early in the morning and you're about to decide what kind of hot beverage to drink for breakfast, probably you're going through several options: tea, coffee, milk, and perhaps you imagine the taste of every one of those options, or you imagine the smell, the aroma. Probably you think about how you will feel afterwards. Temperature might be a factor. Maybe you think about how caffeine might raise your energy level at least for a short while. Or you might even think about long term health effects and decide that caffeine is not good for you. Whatever. Point is, different people will obviously use different strategies to take decisions like that. And of course, none of these methods is intrinsically wrong. There, roughly, you could say that there are central aspects, there are aspects of short term effects, and there are aspects of long term effects, like effects on your health, for example. And you might argue that some of these aspects are more rational than others because they are less connected to emotional and physical impulses. So basically, the long term, thinking about the long term health effect might be more rational than thinking about the imminent rush of energy. It's not always the case, but as a general rule of thumb. Okay, but that doesn't mean that uh, going the rational route is always the perfect option, the perfect guide for everything. Um, Another example would be social situations. When you're in a communicative setting with another person, or even more intense with more than one other person, and there is a discussion going on, you cannot think through every possible line of communication or and any direction that you might go. Like, now he said this, so I will now raise my eyebrow like this, and now I will smile, and now I will um, say yes to this, and I will fashion my statement in this way so that it actually has the impact I want. You cannot really do that. Uh, the reason for that being that our conscious processes are extremely slow compared to our unconscious processes, and they are definitely too slow for anything like that, and also extremely exhausting. Um, Interestingly, side note, I remember a Buddhist nun once saying that thinking is a form of dukkha. And while I don't buy into the whole dukkha idea, I think it is true that it's obviously true that thinking is a form of work. It takes energy. You have to change your brain chemistry, and so it's obviously exhausting. So we tend to avoid that because we like to not be exhausted. So, in short, there are many situations, especially ones involving complex social interactions, imminent danger, obviously, and intense emotions, in which we just have to rely on intuition and our unconscious processes because thinking takes too much time. Uh, and because intense emotions tend to block our access to our own rational abilities. So, as another side note, it makes sense to train your intuition. It makes sense to train yourself for certain hazardous situations and so on and so forth. And in many situations and in many areas, it is also true that we simply lack the information necessary to reach a rational conclusion. We just don't have enough data. And of course, there are quite a lot of situations where it doesn't really make all that much of a difference. And it might be more fun to just go overboard with your emotions, like, I mean, rational dancing, uh, rational horror movie watching, uh, rational lovemaking. I don't think so. And I don't think there is even one skeptic, atheist, rational person out there who will seriously advocate that kind of shit. Um, so I do not believe in suppressing your intuition or your emotion in any way. I believe in integrating it and training it, as I said. On the other hand, I also think that problems, the real problems, some serious problems arise when we start using our abilities in the wrong way or in the wrong context. Like, for example, when we take political decisions based on nothing but intuition and emotion, when we decide that some kind of alternative medical treatment is good because we feel better right after the application, when we decide that the stars guide our fate, because we have this very strong intuition that tells us that everything must be connected to everything else somehow. Um, Things that just totally contradict rational explanations, and things for which there are no rational explanations at all, and that matter, and where we actually have the data. Or the other way around. I think for some time when I was a lot into NLP and stuff like that, I didn't realize that you cannot really analyze your own emotions in a way like NLP adherents would like that. Um, I think the NLP has a strong tendency to overanalyze and over rationalize your own emotional states and tries to deal with them as if they were just material to work on. But they're not, because they're myself essentially, and um, myself working on myself on a purely rational basis just doesn't work out. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of other examples where it's just inappropriate uh, to go the strictly rational route. So, summing it all up, I think rational analysis is there for when we evaluate objective facts for which we have enough data, for which you have a good theory, and when the stuff uh, is important enough, and when we have enough time. Because thinking is work, thinking takes time, and sometimes it's just not worth it. When we ignore that regarding objective facts, then chances are very huge that we start believing bullshit, and I'm no exception to that. I'm basically 100% certain that right now at this moment there is some bullshit that I'm believing, because I cannot possibly rationally analyze everything that goes through my brain, and because I'm emotionally attached to some things, and I have an intense emotional rejection against other things, and so on and so forth. I also believe that most of the time the problem tends to go in one direction. That is because the feeling that something has to be true because it feels true, because our whole intuition, our whole being, every last fiber of my being tells me that this is true, because this is so compelling. It seems so much like a compelling argument. And as I mentioned in another video earlier today, I remember a time when I was a Christian and I was totally up in arms when somebody did a rational analysis of my points, arguments, quote unquote. Um, and I had no answer to that because, hey, come on, don't you see it? Don't you feel it? The Lord is here. God loves you. You must feel this because I'm feeling it and it must be true. Therefore, doesn't work. Just does not work. Um, and of course, it can go even worse. There is also the fact that there are many instances when we treat our own beliefs as if they were some kind of territory, some kind of home turf. We are very territorial primates, so we end up going to war over ideas. People are prepared to go at enormous lengths to defend and spread their ideas. Okay, I think there is one step beyond that, apart from going to war, which is the worst thing you can do. I think there's one step beyond misappropriating your methods of assessing reality, and that is selling it off as the wrong thing. It's totally fine if you believe stuff based on no evidence and no rationality. Your problem. I mean, come on. But when you start selling off unfounded, unevidenced, irrational axioms as objective facts based on rational arguments, then I think you're actually doing harm, because there are people who will believe you. And it's just wrong. It's simply not the case. It's just not the truth. And that's why I'm so vehemently opposed to it. Have fun.